The ink had dried hours ago, but in Tywin Lannister's hand it looked fresh, as if the words themselves refused to settle. He read the lines again anyway, not because he doubted his own comprehension, but because disbelief was a luxury only fools indulged and he preferred to beat it into submission. Dragons confirmed. 3. Walder Frey slain by order of Robb Stark after attempted violation of guest right. Hall half destroyed by flame from the beasts. The north holds the crossing. The handwriting was small and neat, the maester at the Twins doing his best to remain dispassionate even as ash fell into his ink. The seal had been Frey blue and gray, cracked now. The words were facts. Stone had fallen. Men had burned. Plans had come to nothing. Tywin folded the parchment once, precisely, and set it down on the table between them as if it were a minor piece of correspondence about grain tithes. Tyrion Lannister picked it up almost before his father's fingers had left the vellum, one eyebrow rising as he scanned the lines. Cersei did not reach for it. She watched Tywin instead, the way a cat watches the set of a dog's jaw. "Dragons," Tyrion said when he'd finished. He made the word sound almost amused, but the knuckles of his hand whitened where they rested on the table's edge. "We've had reports from the east for years, of course. Merchants, sailors, half-wits. But I must confess, I did not expect to see them roasting Freys on our doorstep quite so soon." Cersei snatched the letter from him, her eyes flicking back and forth. Color rose in her cheeks as she reached the description of the hall's destruction. "That filthy old goat," she hissed. "He promised. Father, you wrote him. You gave him instructions." "I gave him an opportunity," Tywin said. His voice was calm, but the muscle at the hinge of his jaw flexed once. "He squandered it." "He had one task," Cersei snapped. "Kill the wolf. Kill the woman. End this farce of northern independence and send their heads to the city. Instead he loses his hall, his family, and his bridge. And he has done us one favor in his incompetence," Tywin said. "He has proved that these rumors are no longer stories. Dragons live, they breathe fire, and they have forsworn the south long enough to fly in northern skies." Tyrion's mouth twisted. "And ally themselves to the Starks, it seems. Not quite the way the songs told it." "Songs," Tywin said, "are lies more often than not." He rose and moved to the map table set against the wall, where the painted boards still bore marks from the Blackwater. His hand swept aside golden lions clustered around the Trident and King's Landing. 3 small new pieces waited near the edge, a steward's attempt to catch up with reality. Dragons carved from blackened wood, their wings crude but unmistakable. Tywin placed one in the north, beside the carved direwolf over Winterfell. Another he set by the twins. The third he left on the edge, spinning it idly between thumb and forefinger. "You seem very calm about all this," Tyrion said. "Some would find the combination of wolves and dragons disquieting." "It is disquieting," Tywin said, "but panic is for lesser men. We have faced fire before." "Your fire," Cersei said. "Our wildfire. This is different." "The last time dragons sat a throne," Tywin said, "they rotted from within. Madness did what no sword could. This one," he tapped the dragon by Winterfell, "this one sails north, kneels before a boy king, and burns the house of a man foolish enough to break bread with his enemies while crossbows lurked above." Tyrion pursed his lips. "Not madness. Strategy. Perhaps both," Tywin said. "In any case, we must assume she is dangerous." "And Robb Stark?" Cersei asked. "He lives. Again. How many more times must we endure his miraculous escapes?" "A man who lives through repeated attempts on his life," Tyrion said, "tends to become more careful, or more arrogant." "He has become both," Tywin said. "He has also become useful to our enemies." He turned back to them. His eyes were very clear, very cold. "We must divide them," he said. "Stark and Targaryen, wolf and dragon. Their alliance cannot be allowed to stand." "How?" Cersei demanded. "They are in the north. The boy won't come near King's Landing now. not without those beasts overhead. We cannot claim to be his protectors as we did with Eddard. And as for her, she sniffed. She is little more than a beggar queen with a few lizards. Lizards that turned Frey stone to ash, Tyrion said mildly. They made a crude mess of a crude hall, Cersei snapped. Harrenhal still stands. Harrenhal was stone specifically bred to mock dragons, Tyrion said. Freys are not. Tywin cut across them. Enough. We will not waste breath arguing over the size of the threat. It exists. We answer it as we answer all others. He looked at Tyrion. You will speak with Varys, with Littlefinger. I want every whisperer in the city sniffing for cracks between wolf and dragon. Old grudges, new resentments. The North does not love fire. The Targaryen girl's father burned their last lord. There will be those who remember. Win them. Cersei's eyes narrowed. You mean to buy northern lords? Gold is one tool, Tywin said. Marriage is another. There are still daughters in this house, sons in others. Hostages can become spouses. Spouses become levers. Tyrion glanced at the tiny dragon piece in Tywin's fingers. And if neither gold nor bed proves sufficient to separate them, Tywin set the third dragon down on King's Landing, just for a moment. Then we learn, he said, how to kill dragons. The sea breathed below them, slow and dark. Blackwater Bay lapped against the quays, its surface catching the yellow light spilling from lanterns and the dimmer glow of a sleeping city. The scars of wildfire still marked the shoreline in places. Patches where the rock had blackened and cracked, where nothing would grow. Tyrion Lannister found the sight oddly comforting. Proof, at least, that fire could be commanded if you were ruthless enough. Varys's soft footfalls made little sound on the stones beside him. The eunuch's hands were folded in his sleeves, his head tilted just so, the very picture of discreet attention. 3 dragons, Tyrion said, leaning on the balustrade. I had hoped we might go one lifetime without seeing so many in our skies again. Some would call it a marvel, Varys said. The gods returning old wonders to a world grown too small and comfortable. Comfortable, Tyrion repeated. Is that what you call these days? Between Joffrey's tantrums, my sister's enthusiasms, and my father's charming habit of using his children as siege engines, I had not noticed the comfort. Perhaps not comfortable for us, Varys allowed, but for many, the days before dragons returned were at least predictable. Now the game has more pieces. Tyrion snorted. Yes, a wolf king in the north, a dragon queen at his side, an exiled Baratheon brooding on his rocks with his red priestess and his burning heart, Greyjoys skulking on their islands, and our own dear king eagerly sharpening knives for anyone who looks at him askance. He took a pull from the wineskin at his hip. Remind me again why we're the villains in most of the songs? Because villains tend to win, Varys said. His voice was mild. His eyes were dark. Tyrion wiped his mouth. My father wants cracks, he said, between Robb Stark and Daenerys Targaryen. He wants grievances, doubts, old wounds to poke and new ones to open. Tell me you have something better than the obvious, that her father killed his grandfather and his uncle and so on. Better. Varys's lips pursed. Perhaps not, but there are angles. He lifted one finger. First, the North remembers, forgives slowly. The image of dragons burning fields and cattle will not be easily forgotten, even if the current dragons have not yet done it. Every time the girl uses her fire, she buys herself fear as well as awe. Fear is a useful coin, Tyrion said. My father spends it like a miser spends gold. Indeed, but the Starks pride themselves on a different kind of currency. Honor, restraint, justice, that will grate eventually, when set beside fire and blood. He raised a second finger. Second, she is foreign. Her followers are foreign. Slaves freed in distant cities. Dothraki, exiles. The North is not a place that warms quickly to strangers. Strangers with dragons, less so, Tyrion agreed. And third, Varys said softly, there is the heart. Tyrion frowned. You mean to play at ghosting love stories into this? There is too much war in these two for that. Love is not always tender, Varys said. Sometimes it is a knife with flowers on the hilt. Robb Stark has already thrown away one alliance for the sake of his heart. Daenerys has lost a husband and a child and made herself anew in their ashes. Whatever bond grows between them, whether of affection or convenience, will be watched by their followers with suspicion. A southern marriage here, an accidental slight there, and suddenly wolves feel ignored while dragons feel owed. You truly are a spider, Tyrion said. You spin webs out of sighs and glances. I spin webs out of what men are, Varys said. My little birds will listen. If the north begins to grumble, I will hear it. Perhaps we can fan those embers. While we keep our own house from burning down, Tyrion muttered. My sister will not enjoy hearing that someone else has dragons. No, Varys said. She will not. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the sea. Do you ever think, Tyrion said at last, that it might be better if one of them did win? Undivided. A Robb Stark and a Daenerys Targaryen, with dragons on their banners and a common enemy in us? That perhaps a realm ruled by those who have actually bled for their crowns might be preferable to. He gestured vaguely toward the city, where Joffrey slept off another day of cruelty. Varys's face did not change. I think of many things, he said, but my duty is to the realm as it is, not as it might be under different stars. Of course, Tyrion said lightly, we don't choose the game, only how we cheat at it. He looked up, as if he might see, beyond the haze of city smoke and dawn, 3 dark shapes rising over distant snow. Let's hope, he said, that when the dragons finally look south, it is not only lion's gold they smell on the wind. Winterfell looked different when you came home twice. The first time, Robb had ridden through these gates as a boy returning from his first battle, still tasting victory like metal and salt on his tongue. His father had not been there to meet him. The absence had been a wound. Now he rode as a king who had nearly died under a false banner at another man's table. The hall that would have been his tomb lay behind him, half ruined. The man who had planned his murder was headless. The woman who had saved him rode at his side, dragons casting their shadows on his home. Snow fell in lazy flakes as they passed under the archway. The portcullis clanked up. Men on the walls shouted, some in words, some in inarticulate relief. Banners stirred, the direwolf foremost, then the trident, the mermen, others. Small folk crowded the courtyard, kept back from the horses by a line of guards who were only half successful in the face of their enthusiasm. Women craned their necks. Children balanced on barrels and walls. Older men leaned on staves, eyes narrowed but bright. Regal and Viserion announced themselves with twin shrieks, banking low over the roofs. Their wings stirred the smoke from the chimneys, sending it streaming in new directions. The children's shout as one of the dragons swooped close enough to tousle their hair was almost enough to drown out the muttered prayers of their elders. King Robb, someone cried. Dragon Queen. Another voice shouted, half hesitant, half in awe. Daenerys felt heat rise to her cheeks despite the cold. She had grown accustomed, in Essos, to hearing her titles shouted by men whose lives she had broken and remade, by slaves whose chains she had shattered. This was different. These were not her people. They were wolves, not dragons. And yet they looked at her as if she were the fire that had kept their den from freezing. Lyssa Snow was among them, cheeks pink, her embroidered dragon-threaded cloak drawn tight. She caught Daenerys' gaze and grinned, a quick, fierce thing that made her look older and younger all at once. You've picked up a name, Robb murmured beside her under the noise. A name? She asked, keeping her eyes ahead. Queen of Ash and Snow, he said. Some fool Manderly man used it in the yard. The words stuck. Daenerys made a face. It sounds like a song title. It will be one, he said. They will sing of this for years, how dragons came to a northern hall and burned treachery to cinders. They will forget the men who swung swords, she said. They always do, Robb replied. But the swords remember. And the dragons. As if on cue, Drogon swept over the godswood, his shadow briefly covering the heart tree. The great weirwood's red leaves stirred, as if in answer. Some of the old women in the crowd crossed themselves, lips moving in half-forgotten prayers. Catelyn waited at the base of the steps, cloak drawn close, hair caught up in a messy knot. Her face, when she saw them, went still with something like shock, as if she had not truly believed until that moment that they would ride back between the walls. Her eyes lingered on Robb, counting limbs again, then moved to Daenerys. They held there a moment, weighing. "Welcome home," she said. Robb swung down from his saddle, boots crunching on the snow. Gray wind pushed forward, pressing his massive head against Catelyn's hip. She laid a hand on his fur automatically, the gesture as familiar as breathing. "We burned Walder's plans," Robb said, "and a good part of his haul. He will trouble the north no more." Catelyn's gaze flicked to Daenerys. "And the cost?" she asked. "Less than it might have been," Daenerys said. "Fewer wolves dead than Freys. Some stone, some sleep." She hesitated. "Trust, harder to measure." Catelyn nodded slowly. "Trust can be rebuilt," she said. "Stone can be set again. Men lost." She shook her head, then straightened. "Come inside, both of you. The North will want to hear this from your mouths, not raven's claws." The hall hummed like a beehive shaken. Word of the twins had flown ahead of them on the wings of ravens and rumor, but men wanted more than ink and breath. They wanted to see the survivors, to count the scars, to add their own outrage to the pile. They wanted, Daenerys thought, to knit the story into something that made their world feel less fragile. They packed the benches, Manderleys with their sea-green rings, Glovers in their simple, sturdy leathers, men from Torrance Square, Skagos, Barrowton. Daisy Mormont sat among her own, mail gleaming, expression intent. Even some mountain clansmen had come, their faces weathered, their cloaks ragged but their eyes bright. Robb stood before the hearth, the heat at his back. Daenerys stood a step to his right. Catelyn sat at the high table beside an empty chair that would once have been her husband's. The carved direwolves overhead looked down on them all. Wendell Manderley, who had fought at the twins with more enthusiasm than grace, held aloft a banner someone had stitched in remarkable haste. The gray direwolf and the three-headed dragon side by side on a field of white and black. "You will put that down before you set the rushes alight," Wyman Manderley wheezed from his bench, though pride roughened his tone. "We've had enough fire for one season." Laughter rippled, brief but real. Robb raised his hand. The hall subsided. "Walder Frey is dead," he said. The words fell like stones. "He died for breaking guest right, for conspiring with my enemies to murder me and mine, for willing to spill the blood of those who sat at your table as if they were swine at slaughter." "Why?" Walder's lips peeled back, but his teeth chattered too much to make the expression truly defiant. "Why?" he croaked. "Because I could. Because you slighted me. Because you thought you could pick and choose among my girls like pigs in a pen and not pay the price. You would have killed your own daughter," Catelyn said. She stood a little behind Robb, her knife still at her belt, her hair tangled from smoke and snow. "Rosalind sat at that table beside my brother. She would have died in your storm." Walder spat, the glob freezing almost as soon as it hit the ground. "I've sons enough, daughters too. What's one more? She'd have died a lady, at least, not some broodmare in your damp castle." Edmure flinched, his face a mix of horror and anger. Rosalind, standing beside him wrapped in a borrowed cloak, pressed a hand to her mouth. "The lions paid you," Daenerys said. "Or promised to. Did they promise you safety too? When the north burned? When dragonfire fell on the Westerlands?" Walder's pale eyes flicked to her, then to Drogon. "They promised me a future," he hissed. "A place in their new order. Not left to rot on this damned river while wolves piss on my bridge and Tullus sniff down their noses. You think you're better, girl? You and your beasts? You're the same as they are. You all want to sit on something and look down. Daenerys held his gaze. I wanted, she said quietly, to walk into your hall and leave again without having to burn it. You made a different choice. He laughed then, or tried to. Came out as a cough. Go on then, he rasped. Do it. You've already shamed me in my own house. Kill me and be done. Let your dragons shit on my bones. Robb's hand tightened on his sword hilt. Death is the only coin men like you understand, Wyman Manderly muttered from the ring. Pay him, your grace, for every northern man who lay down drunk and unarmed under his roof expecting safety. Murdering him here will not mend guest right, Catelyn said, her voice low but clear. But doing nothing will tell the world the North is too soft to answer such an insult. Robb closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, they were harder. Walder Frey, he said, for breaking guest right, for conspiring with my enemies to murder me and mine, for willing to spill the blood of those who sat at your table as if they were swine at slaughter. I sentence you to death. Walder's mouth opened, perhaps to spit, perhaps to beg. No words emerged. Robb looked at Daenerys. You brought the fire that saved us, he said, but this is the North's law to answer. Not dragons, not lions. He drew his sword, lifting it so that the cold light struck along its length. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Daenerys inclined her head. Then swing, she said softly. Walder's last words, if he had any, were lost under the rising wind. Robb's blade fell in a clean, practiced stroke. Blood steamed briefly on the snow, then cooled. The severed head rolled, bumping against a rough stone, its mouth still open, eyes staring at a sky that did not care. Silence held for a moment, broken only by the soft hiss of falling flakes. Then Manderly dropped heavily to one knee, his sons following. Other northern men knelt, some awkwardly, some as if their joints had known the motion all their lives. For the king in the north, someone said. And the queen? A voice called from the back, not mocking, merely curious. Many eyes turned to Daenerys. She did not flinch. There is only one crown in this courtyard, she said. I stand beside it, not beneath, not above. Then for the north, Brynden Tully said, his own voice carrying. And for the ally who burned treachery out by the root. They found a room in the less damaged tower that still had 4 walls and a roof mostly intact. The air inside was thick with the smell of smoke and stone dust. Soot streaked the ceiling where a previous fire had licked along it years before. A table had been dragged in from some other chamber, its surface scarred and gouged. They spread a map over it, weighting the corners with whatever came to hand. A dagger, an empty cup, a short length of chain warped by heat, a small Frey figurine of a tower. Blood marked one edge of the parchment, a ghostly smear where some wounded man's hand had brushed it earlier. Robb stood on one side of the table, Daenerys on the other. The candle between them cast their shadows long and uncertain against the walls. Through a jagged break where a portion of stone had fallen away, Drogon's bulk was visible outside, curled like a cat on a ledge of broken masonry. His eye gleamed faintly whenever it caught the light. So, Robb said, we live. For now, Daenerys said. Walder does not. No, he agreed, nor do many of his kin. The ones who fought beside you will swear they were bullied or ignorant. The ones who fought against you are dead. His mouth twisted. Blood cleans some stains, leaves others. You could strip them of their name, she said. Take their bridge. Give it to someone who will not sell it to the highest bidder. He looked at the little Frey Tower figurine. The bridge must change hands. If not for this, then because I cannot trust a Frey with such a chokehold on the North's throat any longer. Who then? She asked. Perhaps Blackwood, he mused. Or Lister, someone from the Trident who will remember that the river runs both ways. Or perhaps a lesser house of the North, raised up on condition of their good behavior. He shook his head. It will require thought. For now, We leave a garrison loyal to Winterfell and take hostages enough to keep the Frey remnants from doing anything rash. He tapped the map where the twins Saturday. This is no longer a sword at our backs. That is something. And Roose Bolton? Daenerys asked. Robb's jaw tightened. I saw him turn his blade on a Frey who would have taken my mother from behind, he said. I cannot forget that. I also cannot forget that every instinct I own tells me he was ready to do less honest harm, had we not forced his hand. He is patient, she said. He will wait until dragons are too far to burn his treachery quickly, or until your wolves are busy elsewhere. I know, Robb said. I will not take his head because my gut knots at the sight of him, but I will not bare my throat to him either. His hand moved, placing a small piece, an old carved flayed man, from the broken edge of the map closer to the Dreadfort. He returns home, with fewer men than he came with, under watch. You cannot watch every lord, she said. No, he agreed, but I can watch the ones who make my skin crawl. Outside, Drogon shifted, his tail scraping stone. Sparks drifted from where his breath touched a bit of char. Daenerys traced a line from the twins southward. This will echo, she said. News will spread. A planned massacre turned on its head. A lord of an old house slain for breaking guest right. Dragons burning a great hall that would have been your tomb. It will make the wary more wary, Robb said. Some will say I bring chaos in my wake. Others will say you do. Let them, she said. Chaos was coming regardless. We have simply chosen this once who it devoured. He smiled at that, tired but genuine. You speak like you've done this before. I have stood in halls where men expected chains instead of freedom, she said. I have watched cities tremble when they realized their masters were less necessary than they'd believed. This is not so different, only colder. He leaned on the table, hands braced on either side of the candle. The light carved hollows under his eyes. The North owes you much, he said quietly. My life, my mother's, my uncle's. The lives of men who would have died drunk and trusting, had you not looked up. The North owes me nothing, she said. I swore in your gods would so that I would not be owed, so that when I ask you to stand with me against the Lannisters, it is not as debtor but as ally. He huffed out a breath. You will ask. Yes, she said, when the time is right, not while the dead gather beyond your wall, not while your people starve, but when the lions look ready to pounce again. Her gaze held his. And when I do, I need you alive to answer. He straightened slowly. Then we must try not to get killed at every feast we attend, he said. A tall order, for a Stark. A tall order, she agreed, for a Targaryen as well. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, the map between them, the broken wall behind, the dragon outside a living reminder of what they had unleashed. We'll leave at first light tomorrow, Robb said at last. Back to Winterfell. This place can wait. Let the smoke clear. Let the river wash some of the blood away. And then? She asked. And then, he said, we turn our eyes north, to the wall, to Jon's letters, to the thing that made your dreams run cold. Her hand drifted, almost unconsciously, to the top edge of the map, where no careful ink had been drawn. The unknown beyond. Fire and ice, she murmured. He looked at her, head tilted. What? Nothing, she said. Only a thought. We've burned one treachery from the world. The rest will not be so easily set alight. Good thing, he said, glancing at Drogon through the broken wall. We have time yet to teach your monsters new tricks. They are not monsters, she said. They are my children. They are both, he replied. She did not argue. Instead, she reached out and adjusted the little dragon piece on the map, placing it beside the wolf atop Winterfell's mark rather than at the twins. For the first time since she had set foot in Westeros, he felt not just like a storm passing through, but like part of a pattern, a dangerous, fragile pattern, stitched in fire and fur and old stone. Outside, dawn brightened, turning the falling snow from gray to white. The fire in the longhouse crackled and spat, its light painting the walls in shifting amber. Smoke crept up through a hole in the thatch, taking with it the smell of peat and boiled cabbage. The old man by the hearth had lost most of his teeth and much of his hair, but his voice was strong. It rolled over the children gathered at his feet, smoothing the edges of the day's worries the way a mother's hand smooths a blanket. And there they were, he said. The king in the north and his lady mother, eating bread and salt under the roof of a man who smiled with his teeth and plotted with his knives. A girl with a missing front tooth hugged her knees to her chest. "Guessed right," she said. "Ma'am says it's sacred. That's what you have when you've not got much else." The old man said, "and that's what he broke. Walder Frey, they called him, old and sour. They say his hall stank of mold and his heart of worse. Had crossbows up in the rafters, pointed at our king's back." A boy scowled. "Why didn't the king smell it?" "Because treachery doesn't stink until it's too late," the old man said. "And because men who come in peace don't always look up." He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "But she did," he said. "The dragon woman, Daenerys Targaryen." She looked up. She saw the shadows where no shadows should be. She felt the sting in the air, like before a storm. And she called. He slapped his knee. The smaller children jumped. "Down came the dragons," he said. "Black and green and gold. Down they came from the towers where the old man thought they were just perched like crows. And when that Lannister tune started playing, the one about a lord who thought he was too clever to drown, the dragons said different." In the shadows near the back, a woman knitting by dim light snorted softly. "You make it sound like they're little gods," she said. "They breathe fire, so do the smith's bellows." The old man said, "but when the smith's bellows breathe fire, they don't scorch crossbowmen from the rafters in the same breath." He winked at the children. "They say the dragon's fire lit up the hall like day, burned every man who'd hidden above, ready to put a quarrel through our king's neck, gave the wolves time to bare their teeth proper." "Did the dragons eat the Freys?" the missing-toothed girl asked, delighted. "Some, maybe," the old man said. "Some they burned. Some they flew over, so scared they dropped their swords and pissed themselves. But it was the king who took the old man's head in the end. That's important. Dragons can burn and roar, but it's men who swing swords in the north." A boy with straw sticking from his hair frowned. "Why'd the dragons help us?" he asked. "Her father burned our folk, set Lord Rickard Stark alight and all that. Why'd his daughter come flying for us instead of for the south?" "Maybe she doesn't much like what he did either," the old man said. "Maybe she's seen enough burning in her time that she'd rather set fire where it stops worse." He shrugged. "Or maybe the gods decided they were tired of lions, thinking they were the only beasts that mattered, and brought a dragon north to balance the scales." He leaned back, his chair creaking. "Whatever the reason, it's done. They're talking about her from White Harbor to Skagos now. Queen of Ash and Snow, they call her. Some spit the name, some whisper it, but they all say it." In the doorway, a figure paused. A woman wrapped in a cloak lined with fur, her silver hair tucked under a plain hood. Lissa Snow's eyes widened. "My lady," she breathed. Daenerys lifted a finger to her lips. "Go on," she murmured to the storyteller from the shadows. "I would hear how the world tells it." So he did. And she stood there, heart tight and strangely light at once, listening to herself become something other than what she had been. The wind on the fist of the first men was a living thing. It clawed at cloaks and hair, thrust cold fingers under collars, stole breath from lungs. Snow whirled in eddies between the boulders, making the world a series of brief, shifting veils. The ring of stones at the hill's crown stood like broken teeth, half buried. Samwell Tarly's hands shook as he unwrapped the bundle they had dragged from the earth. Jon could not tell how much of the tremor was cold and how much fear. "Dragon glass," Sam said, his breath coming in little gasps. Just like in the books." The daggers inside glinted, black and sharp, edges catching what little light filtered through the clouds. There were arrowheads too, chipped into wicked points. Some were wrapped in furs that crumbled at a touch. Others lay naked, their surfaces strangely untouched by time. Whoever left these knew they were worth keeping, Jon said. Why bury them here? Why not carry them south? Maybe they meant to come back, Gren said. Maybe they didn't get the chance.
Some swallowed.
His eyes kept darting north, beyond the ring of stones to the vast, pale sweep of land. They said in the histories, he whispered, that dragonglass was used against the others, that it did what steel couldn't. He picked up one of the daggers, hissed as his thumb brushed the edge. Blood welled, bright against the black. Sharp. Jon took another, feeling its weight. It was lighter than steel, but it sat in his hand as if it belonged there. He thought of Daenerys's letter to Robb, carried north by ravens, of fire and dead men in her dreams, of his own memories, blue eyes in the dark woods, the feel of a corpse's hands around his throat. If they left these for us, he said quietly, it's because they knew we'd need them, again. Behind them, the Night's Watch camped uneasily. Small fires huddled against the wind. The horses stamped and tossed their heads. Ghost prowled along the ridge, fur bristling, gaze fixed on the night. Robb wrote, Jon said, more to himself than to the others. He said dragons have come to Winterfell, that she kneels to the north, not to the south, that she's seen things in her fire that sound like what we've seen here. Gren made a face. I'll believe in dragons when one roasts my supper for me, he said. Sam glanced at him, then at Jon. Would it be so bad? He asked hesitantly. If they did come north? Dragons, fire, they might make these woods less cold. They'd make them something else, Jon said. He slid the dragonglass dagger into his belt, feeling its chill bite through the leather. But if what's coming is worse than fire, I'll take fire beside me. A horn sounded then, low and far, echoing oddly off the stones. Not the single blast of rangers returning, nor the double that warned of wildlings. It was the third sound every brother learned and none expected to hear. Low and mournful, repeated, the horn of old stories. Sam went white. 3, he whispered. 3 blasts. Jon's hand tightened on the dagger's hilt. Others, he said. The wind seemed to laugh. The hall at Dragonstone was all shadows and stone. Its carved dragons loomed from the walls and ceiling, mouths agape, claws extended, frozen mid-snarl. Firelight made them seem to move. The great table that Aegon had once used as his map of conquest stretched between the pillars, its wooden surface worn smooth by centuries of hands plotting war. Melisandre stood before the brazier at the hall's end, her red gown a slash of color in the gloom. Flames licked up from the iron bowl, pale and high, their tongues twisting in ways that did not match the wood feeding them. Stannis Baratheon watched from the dais, jaw clenched, hands resting on the arms of his chair. His eyes were on the fire, but his mind was far away, on the sea, on his failed siege, on the weight of a crown he wore in defiance of the world. Davos Seaworth stood further back, near the shadowed columns, fingers worrying the pouch of fingerbone talismans at his neck. He did not watch the flames so much as he watched Melisandre, his expression wary. There, Melisandre whispered. Look, your grace, and see. The flames shifted. For an instant they formed the shape of a stag crowned with fire. Then that image melted, the antlers trailing away like smoke. In its place rose another beast, a direwolf, its fur gray, its eyes like coals. Behind it, 3 smaller shapes coiled and uncoiled. Dragons, their wings beating in time with some unseen heart. They come together, Melisandre said. Wolf and dragon, fire and other fire. She frowned slightly. Not the one I first thought. Stannis leaned forward. You told me I am the one, he said. Azor Ahai reborn, the prince that was promised. You saw it in your flames. I saw a man with a burning sword standing against the darkness, Melisandre said. I saw a crown of light and a heart of stone. I saw much. The meaning is not always simple. "The sword you gave me burned," Stannis said. "The men saw it. They cheered. Then we went to war and lost on the Blackwater while my fleet burned green and my men drowned." His mouth twisted. "Is this, too, one of your complicated meanings?" Davos watched her, his eyes narrowed. He had never trusted her visions. Fire showed what it wished. Men heard what they wanted. Melisandre did not flinch at Stannis's bitterness. Her gaze remained fixed on the flames. "The war you lost was not the war I saw," she said. "That was a battle of men. Petty kings scrambling for chairs." Her eyes narrowed. "This is different. This is the war for the dawn." The fire twisted again. The direwolf and dragons shrank, replaced by a wall of pale flame that was not flame. It was ice, so high it cut the sky, so broad it swallowed the horizon. In its shadow moved dark figures, eyes blue, swords white as moonlight. Davos swallowed. His hand tightened on the pouch at his neck. "The wall," he said hoarsely. "The wall up north." Melisandre's lips parted. "Yes," she breathed, "and beyond it, cold that eats the soul. I have felt it in half-glimpsed dreams, but never so clear." Her gaze sharpened. And there, the flames showed a figure standing before the wall, sword in hand. His face was shadowed, but his eyes glowed like embers in the dark. Beside him, a second figure. A woman with hair like pale fire and dragons coiled at her shoulders. Between them, a third, gray-cloaked, with a ghost at his heels. "Not you," she whispered. The words seemed to surprise even her. "Not you alone." Stannis rose, anger flaring. "What trick is this?" he demanded. "You said." "I said what I believed from what I saw," Melisandre said sharply. For a moment, the mask of imperturbable certainty cracked. "Visions are not lines of ink on a page. They are living things. They change." "So your god changes his mind," Davos said. "How convenient for you both." She ignored him, eyes on Stannis. "Lollaress enemy is not your brother's ghost or Joffrey's crown. It is what moves in that cold. I see now that the prince that was promised may be more than one, or that his work will be done by more than one hand." Her fingers curled around the edge of the brazier. "Wolf, dragon, and another with the wolf's blood and dragon's fire both." "Words," Stannis snapped. "Smoke, you told me I had a destiny. Now you say I am one piece among others." She met his gaze, unflinching. "You are still chosen," she said. "You will still go north, but you will not stand alone there. And if you remain here, clinging to this rocky island and your grievance, you will die forgotten while others fight the true war." Silence stretched. Davos stepped forward, impulsive. "If there is such a threat," he said, "shouldn't you be sending help to the Night's Watch instead of burning statues and bastards? Men, food, anything." Melisandre's eyes flicked to him. "You are more right than you know, Onion Knight," she said. "The wall needs fire. It needs faith." She turned back to Stannis. "Let me go north, your grace. Let me see with my own eyes. You can hold Dragonstone, or march when you are ready. But I must go. And leave me?" Stannis's lip curled. "After binding me to your god, after lighting my sword and my ships, you would run to a pack of northern savages and a Targaryen usurper? You will follow," she said, "or you will not. That choice is yours. But the path I must walk runs along the wall now, not around this table." The flames flared higher, as if in answer. In their heart, the direwolf and dragons rose again, standing before the wall of ice. For the first time in a long while, Melisandre felt something like fear. It excited her. The night was less cruel within Winterfell's walls. Steam rose from vents in the courtyards, sending up tendrils of warmth that coiled around corners and brushed at ankles. The gods would exhale mist that drifted over the rooflines. Even so, the air on the wall had teeth. Daenerys pulled her borrowed northern cloak tighter and walked beside Robb Stark, their boots crunching in the thin crust of snow that had settled since dusk. Gray wind padded behind them, quiet as a shadow, his presence a steady pressure at the back of her awareness. Above, the dragons perched in their chosen places, more felt than seen. A sense of coiled heat and latent violence. "They'll talk about the twins for years," Robb said. "They'll talk about Walder's treachery, about the dragons, about how we answered." He rested his hands on the parapet, leaning out just enough to see the lights of the village beyond the walls. A scatter of orange points, already dimming as folk sought their beds. "Some of them," Daenerys said, "will talk about how their king walked into yet another trap and had to be pulled from it." He huffed. "Some will. They'd not be wrong. They would be unkind," she said, "and unwise to forget that you lived through it." He glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. "Do you expect them to fall over themselves with gratitude because you set a hall on fire for them?" "No," she said. "Gratitude is a fragile thing. It burns away faster than you think. I expect only this, that when I call them to stand beside me against men who would burn them without thought, they will remember that I burned a man who planned to." "And if the dead come first?" he asked quietly. His gaze drifted north, to where the sky sat heavy and low. "If Jon's letters are true, if your dreams are, then our war with the Lannisters waits," she said. "The dead do not care whose banner you fly. They will close the hand on all of us." Grey Wind's ears flicked. He lifted his head, scenting the air. Drogon shifted on his tower, his tail scraping stone. "You feel it too," Robb said to the wolf, more statement than question. "What?" Daenerys asked. "A weight," he said, "like the pause before a storm breaks." Jon wrote of 3 horn blasts on the fist of the first men, of dead men walking, of dragonglass in the snow. He shook his head. "I used to think the worst thing that could happen was losing this war. Now, I wonder if winning it might just leave us with more room to die in." She thought of the wall as she had never seen it, only in her dreams and in the Maester's ink, an impossibly high barrier of ice, standing between the living and something else. She thought of standing before it with him and with another, the third figure in Melisandre's fire, though she did not yet know that woman's name. "We prepare," she said. "We train the dragons. We send more men to the wall. We make sure your larders are full and your armories fuller. And we watch." "And the south?" he asked. "Your throne, your father's chair, will still be there when the snow melts," she said. "Or it will not. If we are dead, it will not matter." He made a face. "I've never much liked the idea of letting the lions fatten themselves while we worry about ghosts." "Neither have I," she said. "But Jon is not given to fancy. And my own dreams have burned too cold for me to ignore them." He was silent a moment, then said, "What will you do when this is done? If we survive? If the dead are beaten back? If the Lannisters fall?" She smiled, a small, tired thing. "You ask that as if there will be any we left by then." "There may be," he said. "Someone will have to decide what kind of world rises from the ashes." She looked out over Winterfell, the squat keeps, the steaming pools, the restless, stubborn fire that seemed woven into the very stones. "I once thought I would only be happy in the south," she said, "in a city of red roofs and golden domes, taking back what was stolen." She blew out a breath, watching it fog. "Now, I do not know. The north is harsh, but it is honest." "Honest," he said, a strange word for a place with so many secrets buried in its snow. "Less strange than honest for King's Landing," she replied. He huffed a laugh. "True enough." They walked in silence for a while, the rhythm of their steps and the wolf's padding forming a kind of cadence. Above, one of the dragons shifted, sending a small cascade of powder down from a parapet. "Do you ever regret it?" Robb asked suddenly. "Kneeling, swearing yourself to the north, instead of to your own cause first." She considered. "I regret," she said slowly, "that I cannot be in 2 places at once, that every choice closes other doors. But I do not regret this door. I am tired of standing alone in the world, tired of holding fire in my hands with no one to share the burn." He looked at her, really looked, and saw not just the queen with dragons, but a woman whose path had been fire and exile and constant, wary forward motion. "You're not alone now," he said. "For as long as our oaths hold," she said, "and we hold to them." Gray wind brushed against her cloak, a brief, solid weight, felt absurdly like acceptance. Tywin Lannister had ordered new pieces. The old map tokens, lions for Lannister, stags for Baratheon, wolves for Stark, krakens and sons and spears for other houses, no longer told the whole story. He would not allow his plans to be constrained by inadequate symbols. The carver had done his work quickly, more for fear than for gold. The dragons were no larger than a man's thumb, their wings folded, their heads lifted in perpetual silent challenge. They were carved from blackened oak taken from a beam scorched during the wildfire battle, polished until they gleamed. Tywin set one on Winterfell, another on the Twins. The third he held a moment longer, feeling the tiny ridges under his fingers. Behind him, Grand Maester Pycelle wheezed quietly, smelling of must and rose oil. Beside the older man stood Qyburn, robes neat, hands folded, eyes too bright. "You wish to speak of certain measures," Qyburn said, his tone obsequious. Tywin set the third dragon down on the narrow sea. "The Targaryen girl has flown north," he said. "She has bent the knee to a Stark king. That does not mean she will never look south. When she does, she will bring fire. I do not intend to face it unarmed." "We have wildfire still," Pycelle said, licking his lips. "The alchemists are fools with green toys," Tywin cut in. "Useful once, but dragons are not fleets. They move as they will. We need something that can reach them, hurt them, drive them back or kill them." "Scorpions," Qyburn said. "Large crossbows, your grace, strengthened, with bolts of hardened steel, placed on walls, towers, ships. A well-placed shot through a wing, a throat, would do what we failed to do at the Blackwater," Tywin said. "Yes, begin work. Quietly. I want every fortress from the capital to the Trident to have at least one. And I want men trained on them," Pycelle wheezed. "Dragons are creatures of legend, my lord. Many maesters hold that their minds are more." "Spare me a lecture on reptilian intellect," Tywin said. "If they can be killed, we will find how. The Citadel has records, old accounts of fights between men and dragons. Aegon's wars, his sisters, the Doom, even the tales of Ashai. Have them copied. Send them to me." Pycelle bobbed. "At once, my lord, though some of those scrolls are fragile." "Like your knees," Tywin said. "Yet we still make use of them." Qyburn smiled faintly. "There are also other methods," he said. "Poisons, snares, certain mixtures that might burn even creatures that think themselves immune to flame. But such things require time. And materials. Send me a list," Tywin said. "I will decide what you may have. In the meantime, we will not sit idle." He moved the dragon token from the sea to the Stormlands, considering. Stannis Baratheon broods on his rock, licking his wounds. He may yet prove useful. A knife to prick at the Stark girl's conscience, if his red woman fetches him north. Or a black banner to draw your dragons away from the south when the time comes. "We might also remind Balon Greyjoy of our arrangement," Pycelle ventured. "His longships could harry the northern coast, distract the wolf." "Already done," Tywin said. "Letters have gone. Gold has followed. If Greyjoy's greed outpaces his sense again, he will make himself the North's problem once more. That would suit us." "And your grandson?" Qyburn asked softly. "King Joffrey has strong feelings about these matters." Tywin's jaw tightened. "My grandson will do as he is told," he said, "or he will be removed from the board." Pycelle blanched. Qyburn's eyes gleamed. "You cannot mean," Pycelle began. "I mean," Tywin said coldly, "that I will not have a boy king's tantrum draw a dragonfire down upon this city before I am ready to meet it. If that requires a change in crowns, so be it." His gaze flicked briefly toward the door that led to the Queen's apartments. "We have another Baratheon heir at hand. One less noisy. Tommen, Tyrion's protests would be loud, Cersei's louder. Neither would matter if the calculus demanded it. Tywin pushed the dragon on the sea so that it sat opposite King's Landing. "Let them preen in the snow," he said. "Let them slaughter backwater lords and swear pretty oaths to trees. When the time comes, we will be ready in a way the last Targaryen kings never imagined." He did not say that he felt something almost like satisfaction at the challenge. It had been many years since the world had presented him with an opponent worthy of his full attention. A wolf with a crown, a girl with dragons. The dead beyond the wall meant nothing to him yet. Their threat was distant, abstract. Fire was real, fire he could plan against. The snow came sideways. It drove into Jon's face like thrown sand, each flake a tiny, stinging shard. The world had narrowed to the ring of ancient stones and the shapes moving in the white beyond, shadows that resolved into men only when they were nearly upon the line of black cloaks. "Shields!" he shouted, though his voice was almost swallowed by the wind. "Hold the shield wall." The fist of the first men was a natural fort. A hill with steep sides and a crown of boulders, fortified now by the night's watch with ditches and sharpened stakes. It should have been a bastion, felt like a trap. Ghost snarled at his side, the direwolf's fur clotted with frost, his red eyes burning in the swirling white. He lunged forward, teeth sinking into a hand that should not have moved at all. The white's wrist snapped under the force, bone breaking with a sound like cracking ice. Still, the dead man clawed forward, other hand reaching. Jon's sword took its head. The thing fell, but its fingers still flexed, crawling like pale spiders in the snow until a burning brand slammed down atop them. The flesh blackened, then sagged. "Fire!" Jon yelled. "Fire stops them. Remember that." Around him, the line reeled and recovered. Men hacked at limbs that refused to stop moving, stabbed at chests that did not bleed. They pushed back the dead with steel and flame and sheer stubborn weight, but the storm brought more. Always more. Sam Tarly stumbled past, a torch clutched in white-knuckled hands, his eyes wide behind his fogged spectacles. A white lunged for him, its jaw hanging at an angle that turned its mouth into a gaping, frozen wound. Sam squealed, tripped, landed on his back. Ghost was faster. The direwolf hit the thing mid-chest, knocking it sideways into a sharpened stake. The stake punched through its chest and out its back. It writhed, uselessly impaled, until fire found it. "Up, Sam!" Jon grunted, hauling the other man to his feet. "Move!" A horn sounded then, low and far, but audible even over the storm. Once, a pause, twice. "Wildlings?" someone panted. The third blast came like a blow. It seemed to shiver through Jon's bones, vibrating up the length of Longclaw's hilt. Men froze. The wind howled. For a heartbeat, the storm itself seemed to lean in to listen. "Others?" Dolorous Ed said, his voice strangely flat. "Well, that's that then." "Hold the line!" came Jeor Mormont's roar from somewhere behind them. The old bear's voice was hoarser than Jon had ever heard it, but it still cut through the panic. "We're not done yet." But they were. Not in that instant. Steel still swung, torches still flared, but in the larger calculus, the fight had shifted. Jon felt it in his gut the way he'd felt a horse stumble beneath him before it went down. The dead were not just men who had once breathed. They were servants of something colder. Beyond the whites, in the deepest white, shapes moved. Tall shapes, pale shapes, eyes burning like chips of sky at noon. One of them lifted a hand. The storm screamed. Wind slammed into Jon, driving him back. For a moment he saw nothing but white, felt nothing but cold that gnawed at his teeth. When his vision cleared, the line had buckled. Men had been flung aside like toys, some down the hill, some into one another. "We can't hold," someone shrieked. "We have to fall back." "Fall back where?" another shouted. "We're on a bloody hill." Jeor Mormont fought his way to the front, Longclaw's twin in his fist, his beard crusted with ice. "We retreat," he growled. "Down the south slope. Regroup at the horses. We ride for the wall." He caught Jon's eye. "Sound it," he said. "Retreat." The horn blew again, this time in the old pattern for withdrawal. 3 long, descending notes. "Go!" Jon bellowed. "Go, go, go. Don't run. Move together. Don't let them break you." He and Ghost backed toward the gap in the ring of stones, slashing at wights that lunged too close. Behind them, Sam stumbled, fell, was hauled up by Gren. Pyp's sword flew from his hand. He snatched up a burning brand instead, swinging it wildly. The first of the others stepped through the wall of wights then, its presence clearing a path as the dead fell back. Its armor rippled like ice on a river. It raised its sword, a blade so thin and bright the storm itself seemed to shy away from it. His eyes met Jon's. Cold shot through him, deeper than any winter he'd ever known. His fingers wanted to open, to drop Longclaw. His legs wanted to run. His heart wanted to stop. Ghost growled, low and furious. The sound gave him something to anchor to. Jon took 1 step back, then another, not turning his back on the thing. "Move!" he shouted again. Down the slope. The others did not hurry. They had all the time in the world. The living did not. The descent was less a retreat than a controlled tumble. The south slope of the fist dropped away steeply, the snow hiding treacherous patches of ice and rock. Men slid more than they walked, some on purpose, some with startled cries that ended in grunts when they hit something harder than snow. Jon half-carried, half-dragged a ranger whose name he could not recall in that moment. The man's leg bent at an angle that made Jon's own bones ache in sympathy. The ranger's breath came in harsh pants, each one a cloud in the frigid air. "Leave me," the man gasped. "I'll only slow you." "Shut up," Jon snapped, teeth chattering. "You can die on your feet at the wall, not on your arse here." Ghost ranged ahead, a white blur, growling at any wight that staggered too close. The dead moved more slowly on the slope, their stiff limbs ill-suited for the uncertain footing. Some pitched over, rolling bonelessly, limbs breaking then twisting back into place. They rose again more often than not. The others did not come down. They stood on the crest above, watching. Their silence was worse than any shout. "Keep moving!" Gior's voice floated down the slope, battered thin by the wind. "To the horses! We ride!" The camp at the base of the hill was already in motion. Men hacked at frozen rope, cursing as fingers slipped. Horses screamed, smelling the wrongness on the wind. Some reared, breaking tethers, only to be dragged back by frantic hands. Sam slipped and went down hard on his knees. The bundle of dragonglass dagger and arrowhead he had clutched to his chest flew from his arms, spilling black shards across the snow. He scrabbled for them, fingers numb. "Leave them," Gren shouted. "Sam, we have to. We need them," Sam cried, voice cracking. The book said, "We need them." Jon saw the white lurching toward Sam before anyone else did. It had once been a man of the watch. Tatters of black still clung to its shoulders. Its eyes were dull, its mouth hanging open, as if in perpetual protest. He shoved the wounded ranger toward Gren. "Take him," Jon barked. "Get to the horses." Then he waded back up the slope, snow dragging at his legs. The white reached for Sam. Ghost hit it from the side, driving it into the snow. They rolled, a tangle of fur and frozen flesh. Ghost's teeth closed on its neck. Vertebrae snapped. The head lolled, mouth working bonelessly. "Sam!" Jon shouted. "Run!" Sam clutched the dragonglass dagger he'd managed to grab to his chest like a child clutching a toy. His eyes were huge. He nodded, stumbling to his feet, and half slid, half ran down the hill. Ghost leapt clear as Jon's sword came down, severing the white's head with a crunch. It lay there in the snow, eyes staring at a sky it could not see. His body twitched, fingers digging at the ground. "Burn it," Jon called. "Burn them all if you can." There was little time for thoroughness. Men flung whatever they had, a dropped torch, a bit of flaming canvas, onto the nearest corpses. Flame licked at them, too small, too scattered. The storm fought back, snuffing weaker fires. "Enough!" Mormont roared from below. To horse! Now! They broke out of the lee of the hill into the open, where the wind hit like a wall. The horses were saddled, more or less. Some had bits hanging askew, some lacked proper girths. No one cared. Jon swung into the saddle of a rangy black mare, fingers stiff on the reins. Ghost bounded alongside, refusing to be left. "Ride!" Qyburn shouted. "Ride for the wall. We warn them or we die for nothing." They rode. Behind them, the fist of the first men receded into the whirling white. Jon glanced back once. At the crest, he saw the others watching, unmoving. One raised its sword. Snow closed in like a curtain. The Raven Tower felt smaller than Jon remembered. Perhaps it was the number of men crammed into it. Perhaps it was the weight of what they had brought back with them. The smell of burned flesh still clinging to cloaks. The haunted look in men's eyes that made the walls seem too close. Ravens croaked restlessly in their cages, unsettled by the storm that clawed at the tower's stones. Their feathers ruffled. Their black eyes gleamed in the candlelight. Qyburn Mormont sat hunched at the table, his great shoulders bowed. His right hand shook slightly as he held the quill. His left was braced flat against the wood as if to keep the world steady. Ink blotted the page where he had paused too long. "We were driven from the fist," he muttered, more to himself than to the others. "Lost near half our strength. Dead do not stay dead. Fire stops them. Steel does not. Dragonglass may." Maester Aemon sat opposite him, blind eyes turned toward the sound of the quill. His age seemed to weigh heavier tonight, his milky gaze clouded with worry. Even so, his voice was firm. "Name them," he said. "On the page. Old Nan's tales are not enough. Men will call this madness unless you write it plain." Qybur's jaw clenched. "You want me to write that walking corpses and ice demons broke the night's watch on ground we've held for 1,000 years? He growled. "That wildling tales are true? They'll say I've lost my wits." "They will say that regardless," Aemon said. "Better they say it after hearing the truth than without the warning." Jon stood near the window, the cold seeping through the stone. Ghost pressed against his leg, a silent presence. Jon listened as the quill scratched again. "We have seen the others," Qyburn wrote, lips moving. "They are real and they walk. They command the dead. They are moving south." He set the quill down, flexing his fingers. "That's one for Eastwatch," he said, "and one for the Shadow Tower. And," he glanced at Jon, "your brother will need to hear it." "Robb," Jon said quietly. "Aye. King in the north or no, he's still a Stark. The north will feel this storm first. If he spends all his strength on lions while the dead slip in the back door, he'll find his banners frozen in their hands." "I'll draft it," Aemon said. "My hand is more legible than yours, Lord Commander. And I know how to write so that maesters take heed." He turned his blind gaze toward Jon. "You will help me choose the words," he said. "You know your brother's mind." Jon swallowed. "He listens," he said. "He'll hear trouble if it comes from me, or from you, Maester." "He is not the only one who must listen," Aemon said quietly. "We will send birds to Winterfell, to White Harbor, to Deepwood, and south to men who sit thrones and think their walls will protect them." A faint, sad smile touched his mouth. "I once had kin who would have heeded such a letter. Their line has flown north now, it seems." His hand came up, brushing absent-mindedly at his chain. Jon thought of the Targaryen girl in the north, the one his brother had written of. Dragons on Winterfell's walls, silver hair in the snow. "Write to them both," he said, "to Robb and to her. If half the stories are true, she has fire enough to matter." Qyburn grunted. "You're not wrong. Gods know we need all the damned fire we can get." He glanced toward the raven cages. A few birds shifted, sensing the attention. "Choose the strongest flyers," he told Aemon. "Give them the best grain we have. This cannot fail to reach them." Outside, the storm clawed at the tower. Inside, ink formed words that would ripple outward like stones thrown into a black sea. The ravens would carry them. Whether the world listened was another question entirely. The wax was black. Robb turned the broken seal over in his fingers once more, as if some other color might appear if he looked long enough. It did not. The configured crow stamped into it stared back in implacable miniature. "Read it again," Catelyn said. Her voice was thin with strain. Slowly, he did. "Driven from the fist of the first men," he read. "Half our strength lost. The dead do not rest. Fire stops them, steel does not. We have seen the others with our own eyes. They command the corpses of the fallen. They are moving south. We ride for the wall to make what stand we can. If the north does not prepare, it will freeze under their march." His throat tightened around the next lines. "Your brother fought well," he finished. "He lives, for now. Jeor Mormont, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch." He let the parchment fall to the table. It lay there between them like a piece of dirty snow no one wanted to touch. "A song," Wyman Manderly said, but there was no humor in it. "An old woman's tale, written like a maester's warning." "I've heard these tales since I was a girl," Catelyn whispered. "My father's father told us on winter nights about dead men walking and pale riders under cold stars. I never thought to see those words in a raven's letter." Brynden Tully's mouth was a hard line. "I've fought men all my life," he said. "Ironborn raiders, mountain clans, lions. I knew where to put a spear in any of them. This," he shook his head, "this is different." Daenerys picked up the parchment with careful fingers, as if it might tear at a rough touch. She read it once, then again, lips moving, eyes narrowing. When she looked up, there was no surprise in her face, only confirmation. "This is what I saw," she said quietly. "On the ramparts of White Harbor, in the Godswood, in the places between sleeping and waking, I saw an army that did not breathe. I saw eyes like blue knives. I saw a cold that didn't care about crowns." Robb met her gaze. "Then there's no more pretending these are just dreams," he said. "There never was," she replied. "Only hoping." Wyman shifted, his chair complaining beneath him. "We cannot fight ice with oaths," he said. "We need fire, men, food. The wall was built to keep such things at bay, but it has not been tested in your lifetime, your grace. Nor mine, nor my father's." "Our first duty is to the north," Catelyn said. Her hands were clenched in her lap. "To these people, if this comes," she inhaled. "We cannot spend all our strength on lions and leave ourselves bare." "We won't," Robb said. He moved to the map table, setting his hands on either side of the north. The wolf carved over Winterfell seemed to stare up at him accusingly. "We send more men to the wall," he said. "Not just cast-offs and criminals. Good men, volunteers, with food. With dragonglass, if we can find enough of it in our hills." He glanced at Daenerys. "And we go ourselves, to see, to stand with them." Catelyn's head snapped up. "You would leave the north again?" she demanded. "You just returned. The Freys are broken," he said. "The twins are in our hands. The river lords know we burned betrayal once. They'll think twice before trying it again. The lions lick their wounds and plan. They always plan. But this..." His finger stabbed the top of the map, where the wall was inked. "This moves while we debate. If I send only ravens and men in my name, I will always wonder if I ask too much or too little." "You can't fight winter with a sword," Catelyn said. "No," he agreed, "but I can stand beside men who do. If Jon falls and I stayed here polishing my crown, what kind of king does that make me?" The question settled over the room like another layer of frost. Daenerys stepped closer to the map. "My dragons were hatched in the wake of a fire," she said. "Perhaps this is why they came, why I came. Not for your throne, Robb Stark. Not for my father's. But for this wall of ice and what prowls beyond it." Wyman nodded slowly. "Winterfell can stand for a time without you," he said. "We have lords enough to hold fast. But the wall has only men who took vows no one south of the neck remembers how to honor. Bryndon's eyes gleamed with something like old excitement. "It's been too long since a Stark king rode to the wall as more than a procession," he said. "And never with dragons. The songs will like that." "The songs can come later," Robb said. "For now, we ride." He looked at Daenerys. "Will you come?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Of course," she said. "The North was my choice. The wall is part of it." The wall ate the horizon. It rose from the earth like a thing the world had tried to forget, only to trip over again. From a distance it looked unreal, a pale line against the sky, too straight, too tall. Up close, as Daenerys flew along its face, it became a presence. Drogon's wings beat harder here. The air was different, thinner, colder, with a taste of old magic she could not name. The ice itself was not smooth. It was a cliff of frozen waves and half-melted crenellations, layers upon layers upon layers, each one a winter that had come and gone and left itself behind. She guided Drogon along its length, his black body stark against the white. Below, Robb and his escort were small dark flecks moving toward the central gate. Castle black in miniature, dwarfed by the thing it clung to. Ghost ran ahead of the column as if drawn. Rhaegal and Viserion flew further out, their cries bouncing off the ice and echoing strangely. They seemed unsettled. Fire and ice had always been opposites, but here, above this ancient line, the opposition felt personal. Daenerys edged Drogon closer, letting her fingertips brush the ice as they passed. It burned oddly, cold so intense it might have been heat. In her mind, the dragon's discomfort spiked. "This is what you were hatched for," she murmured into the wind. "Not Karth, not Astapor. This." Drogon rumbled, unconvinced. Below, the gate of Castle Black creaked open. From her vantage, the men who emerged looked small, but their black cloaks and disciplined lines set them apart from the rougher northern host. Robb's banner, gray direwolf on white, snapped in the wind. Behind him flew another standard, hastily sewn in Winterfell, the direwolf and three-headed dragon side by side. Daenerys angled Drogon downward, letting him spiral in a wide circle that took them over the open yard inside the wall. Men in black scattered, some ducking, some standing their ground. She saw the gleam of steel below, the flash of a torch held a little higher than strictly necessary. "Easy," she told Drogon. "We are guests." He landed beyond the yard, in a patch of snow already partially melted by the smaller fires of the Watch's camp. The impact sent a tremor through the ground. Viserion and Rhaegal followed, flanking him like living walls. Daenerys slid from Drogon's shoulder, boots sinking into snow. The cold hit her more sharply after the dragon's heat. For a heartbeat, she simply stood, letting her eyes take in the black wooden palisades, the rough stone of the tower, the gap where the wall's shadow loomed. Men stared. They were not lords, these ones. Some had the bearing of younger sons. More had the wary, shifty look of men who had chosen the wall over some worse fate. Their faces were weathered, their beards rimed with frost. Their eyes, though, were not so different from the ones she'd seen in Astapor and Meereen. Men who had seen too much and expected too little. The gate in the wall itself opened with a grinding of old machinery, and the northern host rode in. Robb was at their head, cloak snapping, crown set back on his tangled hair. He swung down from his horse as Jeor Mormont approached. The Lord Commander looked older than his letter. His beard was still thick, but white threads had multiplied. His eyes had new lines at the corners, carved by cold and fear and anger. "Your Grace," he said to Robb, voice a gravelly rumble. "You came. You called," Robb replied, "and my brother still wears your black. I would not have him stand alone." Jeor's gaze shifted to Daenerys. Whatever reaction her presence provoked, he did not let it show. Only his brows lifted, slightly, at the dragons behind her. "And you, your Grace," he said. "It seems the tales undersold you." "Tales usually do," she said. "You wrote of dead men and winter's shadows. I came to see them." The old bear snorted. "You may regret that before long, but I won't say no to fire." He looked up at the wall, at the dragons, at the storm clouds gathering beyond the ice. "7 help us," he muttered. "Or whatever gods still bother." For a moment Jon did not move. He had stood in the yard as the dragons descended, as the northern host rode in, as Jeor Mormont went forward to greet their king and the woman with fire at her back. Ghost had pressed against his thigh, a silent, insistent warmth. Jon's fingers had twisted in the direwolf's fur, anchoring himself. "Go on," PYP muttered at his shoulder. "That's your bloody brother. You can't skulk behind the rest of us like some shy maid." Jon swallowed. Robb, older, crowned, alive. He stepped forward. Ghost went with him as he always had. The yard seemed to widen, the noise of murmuring men dulling. He was aware of eyes on him from both sides. Black cloaks, gray and green and blue surcoats. The air between the groups felt brittle. Robb turned at the movement, as if some invisible string had tugged his attention. For an instant the crown and the years fell away. Jon saw the brother who had wrestled with him in the mud, who had shared stolen apples behind Winterfell's kitchens, who had gripped his arm hard the day Jon had ridden north, both of them trying not to cry. "Jon," Robb said. "Your Grace," Jon said automatically, then caught himself. "Robb." Robb's mouth twisted. "If you start calling me your Grace, I'll have to hit you," he said, voice rough. They closed the distance in 3 strides. The embrace was clumsy, armor and fur and swords bumping, but they held to it. For a heartbeat Jon allowed himself to rest his head against his brother's shoulder, to breathe in the familiar smell beneath the smoke and horse and cold. Pine and leather and something that was simply Robb. Ghost bumped against gray wind. The 2 direwolves circled each other once, noses touching, then fell in side by side, as if they had never been separated. When they pulled apart, Jon's throat felt raw. "You look like hell," Robb said, with the particular fondness reserved for those who had earned it alongside you. "You look like a fool with metal on your head," Jon replied. Robb laughed, brief and bright. Around them, some tension eased. "Jon," Catelyn said. She had hung back until now, her face a careful mask. There was fear in it, and love, and something more complicated. The old hurt that had never quite let her look at him as she looked at her trueborn sons. "My lady," Jon said, bowing his head. "I'm glad to see you safe." "And I you," she said. The words cost her something, he saw it. But she said them. Jeor cleared his throat. "As touching as this is," he said, "we've dead men and worse on our doorstep. We'll need more than embraces to keep them out." "Then introduce us properly," Daenerys said. Jon turned to her. He had seen her only as ink on parchment and as a shadow against his brother's words. She was smaller than he'd imagined. Younger. Her hair was the silver of old frost. Her eyes a color he couldn't name at first, pale, but not cold. There was a kind of contained fire in them. "Daenerys of House Targaryen," Jeor said. "Queen of Ash and Snow, some call her. Daenerys, this is Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell, now a brother of the Night's Watch." Her gaze flicked to the black cloak at his shoulders, to the sword at his hip, to Ghost's red eyes. "Your brother speaks of you," she said. "Often." Jon glanced at Robb, who looked exasperated. "Only when you're relevant," Robb said, "which is more than I'd like." "Your Grace," Jon said to her. "I never thought to see dragons on this side of the world." "Neither did I," she said. "Yet here we are." Ghost sniffed cautiously in her direction, then turned his head toward Drogon, who hissed softly. The direwolf's fur rose along his spine, but he did not back down. Drogon's eyes narrowed. The air between them felt charged. "Easy," Daenerys murmured. "We are on the same side. For now," Jeor muttered. "Come, all of you, up the wall. You came to see what we face. Best do it before the light goes." The wall's top was broader than Daenerys had expected. It was like standing on the spine of the world. The surface was not smooth. It was a rough, frozen roadway of packed snow and ice, rutted where countless boots had walked and dragged. Parapets of ice rose on either side, catching the wind and throwing it back in eddies. The lift that had brought them up creaked back down, leaving them in a smaller bubble of silence than the yard below. The sounds of Castle Black, the clank of metal, the murmur of men, fell away. Only the wind remained, and the distant scrape of Rhaegal's claws on ice as he glided along the wall's length. Jon stood near the edge, his black cloak snapping like a torn banner, ghost pressed against his leg. Jeor Mormont, Robb, and Daenerys joined him one by one. "Look," Jeor said, gesturing with a gloved hand. "See what we're guarding." The land beyond the wall rolled away in a white expanse, broken here and there by the dark teeth of trees, by the black line of a frozen river, by the shadow of some low hill. Far on the horizon, the hint of mountains loomed, their peaks lost in cloud. It was beautiful in a brutal way. Fosht, empty, deceptively peaceful. Daenerys squinted. "I see snow," she said, "and trees, and a whole lot of cold. Where are your dead?" "Moving," Jon said. His voice was quiet. "They don't march like an army. Not in neat little lines. They drift. They spread. You feel them before you see them." "How poetic," Robb muttered.
"Ide prefe banners."
"You'd prefer an enemy that plays by your rules," Jon said. "They won't," Jeor grunted. "We had scouts out after we broke from the Fist," he said. "Before the last storm, they saw movement in the haunted forest. Patterns that weren't wildlings. We've had a few bodies wash up near Eastwatch, too. Pieces of things. The dead are coming. Slowly, but they're coming." Daenerys rested her hands on the parapet, fingers burning against the cold. Drogon's presence brushed her mind, uneasy. The dragons did not like this place. The ice felt wrong to them. "Can they climb?" she asked. "The wall? Or will they look for a way around?" "The whites can't," Jon said. "Not easily. They can't think well enough. The others..." He hesitated. "I don't know what they can't do. I only know what we've seen. They walk over things that would kill men. They break steel like twigs. They bring the cold with them. And they don't hurry," Jeor added. "That's the worst of it. Men rush. Men run. Men have somewhere to get to. They just come. As if they know we'll be here when they arrive." Robb frowned into the distance. "How many?" he asked. "Have you seen any numbers?" "Enough to break us on the Fist," Jon said. "And that was before they took our dead. Every man we lose becomes another for them if we can't burn the body. Every horse. Every wildling they kill. It's not a fair fight." Daenerys' throat tightened. She had faced armies with better numbers than hers before. She had stood atop walls and looked down at ranks of spears and shields and thought, if we burn enough of them, the rest will break. This felt different. This felt like looking at a sea that would simply roll back over any wound you carved into it. "Fire," she said. "You said fire works. And dragonglass." "Fire stops the whites," Jon said. "We don't know yet what it does to the others. We didn't get close enough on the Fist. Dragonglass is supposed to stop them. Once, ages ago, if the old tales are true. What do your dragons do against things that don't burn?" Robb asked her quietly. She watched Drogon sweep out over the forest beyond, his shadow briefly crossing the tops of trees. "I don't know," she said. "Yet." They chose a white they'd managed to drag back during a brief foray beyond the gate. A risk that had frayed Jeor's temper and Jeremy Ricker's patience to threads. Now the thing strained against its bonds, teeth snapping, fingers clawing at the air. The chains rattled. Its skin was the color of old snow, stretched tight over bone. Frost formed in its scraggly beard. Its eyes, no blue light there, only the dull, empty gaze of a corpse, did not blink. "Lovely," Daenerys said. "Is this your usual entertainment? Better than watching ice melt?" Dolorous Ed muttered under his breath. Jon stepped forward, dragonglass dagger in hand. Ghost prowled at the edge of the circle, fur bristling. A half-dozen brothers stood ready with spears, their points tipped in black glass, their faces tense. First we see if it stops moving at all without fire, Qyburn said. Then we see what your dragons do. There was something bleakly practical in his tone that Daenerys respected. He had seen enough to spare no sensibilities, his own or others. Jon took a breath and went in. The White lunged at him as far as the chains allowed, fingers scrabbling for purchase. He dodged, the movement economical, a practice born of too many close calls. The dragonglass flashed in his hand as he drove it into the thing's chest. The White spasmed. A sound like cracking ice hissed from its mouth. Frost formed around the wound, spiderwebbing out. For a heartbeat, its limbs jerked in wild, erratic motions. Then they stilled. It hung from the chains, head lolled, mouth open. "Burn it anyway," Jon said, stepping back. "We've seen them start again." One of the brothers stepped forward with a torch. He touched it to the White's clothes. The fabric was stiff with cold, slow to catch. Then the flames found grease and rot. They flared. The smell was worse than anything Daenerys had encountered in the slave cities. She had burned men before. She had watched their skin blacken and peel, heard their screams. There had been a certain purity in it, then terrible but purposeful. This was uglier. There was no defiance here, only something ancient trying to push its way back into motion even as the flesh that housed it turned to char. She felt Drogon's attention like a weight on the back of her skull. The dragon did not like this fire. It was not his. It tasted of old death. "Now," Qyburn said, "your turn." They waited until only the blackened skeleton remained, its limbs collapsing inward as the cooled bone cracked. Then Qyburn had them drag another White from the small icehouse where they had kept a few for exactly this purpose. This one fought more fiercely, snapping at the air, spitting out chunks of tongue that had half frozen in its mouth. Its eyes rolled in sockets rimed with frost. "Stand clear," Daenerys said. She did not call Drogon with words alone. She opened herself to him, let the path form between them. He came willingly, a dark weight in the air that swooped low over the gate. Men flinched. Some ducked. Some held their ground by sheer stubbornness and the knowledge that their fellows were watching. Drogon landed with a thud that shook the ground, snow hissing under his belly. He lowered his head, nostrils flaring. The White lunged at him. For a heartbeat, the sight was almost absurd. A dead man on chains snapping at the snout of something that had burned cities. Drogon hissed. "Short," Daenerys murmured. "Precise. Just the chains and the body. Not the post. Not the ground." He understood. Fire roared from his throat in a narrow cone. It struck the White full in the chest. The thing went up like tinder. Its shrieks were high and thin, carrying through the trees. The flame did not stop when the flesh sloughed away. It poured over bone, over chain, turning metal red, then white. When Drogon cut it off, what remained was a twisted, smoking mess. No lim twitched, no hand clawed. Jon stepped closer, dragonglass still in his grip, and prodded the remains. "They don't get up," he said. "Not with fire like that. They won't always stand in front of a post for you," Robb said, from just inside the gate. He had insisted on watching, gray wind at his side. "But it's something." "It's more than we had," Qyburn said. He looked at Daenerys. "Can you do that along a line? In a storm? With men and horses in the way?" "Yes," she said. "If they give me space. If they trust me." "That," Qyburn said, "will be the trick." The first word of the Red Woman's approach came not from a horn, but from a raven. It arrived at Eastwatch by the sea, battered by wind, its message a cramped scrawl from a half-frozen officer of the watch. "Ship in sight. Southern. One banner only. Red." By the time she stood before Castle Black's gate, dusk had fallen. The sky was a bruise-colored smear, the cold deeper. Torches flared along the palisade, their flames bent sideways by the wind. Melisandre of Ashai looked up at the wall. Her breath did not plume as much as one might expect. The cold seemed to slide off her like water. Her red cloak snapped and twisted, the color vivid against the snow. Around her neck, The ruby in its slender chain pulsed faintly in the torchlight. Night's Watch brothers shifted uneasily at the gate. They had seen strange things in their time, but this woman with fire in her hair and something unreadable in her eyes unsettled even hardened men. Jeor Mormont stood on the walkway above, hands on the rail. Jon, Daenerys, and Robb were nearby, their cloaks drawn tight. "A red priestess," Jeor said. "I thought we'd seen enough of their kind when Thuras was drunk in our hall years ago." "She's more than Thuras ever was," Jon said quietly. "Stannis' men spoke of her." "She serves the Lord of Light," Daenerys said.
Erchlor.
"I saw his shadows in Essos." Robb shot her a sidelong look. "Should I be reassured or more worried that you know her god?" "A little of both," she said. Below, the gate creaked open. Melisandre stepped through. Snow crunched under her boots. She moved with the calm of someone certain of her path. Her gaze went first to Jeor, then slid upward to the dragons on the wall's edge. Her lips parted just slightly. "Beautiful," she murmured. "I had almost despaired of seeing their like again." Her voice carried, despite its softness. "State your business," Jeor called. "This is the Night's Watch. We are not in the habit of receiving red-cloaked visitors unannounced." She smiled, not mockery, not quite amusement either. Something older. "You are not in the habit of many things you must now learn, Lord Commander," she said. "But I come at the bidding of the Lord of Light. And," she added, looking up at Daenerys, "at the call of what burns beyond your walls." Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, Daenerys saw not a woman, but a shape outlined in fire, the same red silhouette she had glimpsed in visions of temples in Essos. A gate lit from within. Melisandre's lips curved. "Daenerys Stormborn," she said, "breaker of chains, mother of dragons, queen of ash and snow, they are calling you now." She rolled the words on her tongue. "A good name, a true one." Daenerys felt the hair on her arms rise. "You know much for someone who has just arrived," she said. "The flames show more than distance," Melisandre said. "They show what is needed. I have seen you in them. And him." She turned her gaze to Jon. His stomach dropped. "In your fires," Jon said roughly. "You saw me." "Yes." The red woman's eyes gleamed. "You with a sword of burning steel and a ghost at your side. You standing between the cold and the living. You and the Wolf King and the Dragon Queen. 3 heads to 1 flame." Robb made a face. "I have a crown," he said. "Not a head for your god's table. Crown or none, you stand in the fire's path," she said. "You all do. I am here to help you see it." Jeor snorted. "We've had enough visions for a lifetime. What we need is food, men, and something that kills the others without getting us all killed in the process." Melisandre's gaze slid to the wall. "You will have some of that," she said. "But you will also have what the Lord of Light gives. For now, that is me." She turned back to Daenerys, eyes bright. "And your dragons," she said. "They are his gift as much as any. You may not like that truth, but the fire does not lie. They went when the night was at its clearest. The storm had blown itself out, for the moment. The sky above the wall was a vault of hard, sharp stars. The moon was a thin, cold slice. Beyond the ice, the world lay in shades of blue and black. Jeor had argued against it. Catelyn had argued more fiercely still. Robb had heard them and overruled them both, sending half his men awake and armed to the wall's defenses and the other half to rest. "If we're to stand against something, we should know its shape," he had said. "I will not thrust swords into the dark and hope they bite the right flesh." In the end, it was Daenerys and Jon who went beyond. She rode Drogon. He rode the wall. Ghost paced beside him as he walked along the top, cloak snapping. His hand rested on the frozen parapet, gloved fingers leaving brief, dark prints in the rime. Below, the gate stood shut. Beyond it, the forest stretched. "Ready?" Daenerys called, Drogon shifting under her. "No," Jon said. "Go anyway." She grinned, a quick flash of teeth, then leaned forward. Drogon launched himself from the wall. The drop was a rush of air and cold and exhilaration. He flared his wings at the last moment, skimming just above the treetops, then climbing again. The forest below became a dark sea, the snow its foam. Daenerys let him choose the direction. He could feel things she could not. Sense in the air currents of warmth and cold, the pull of something wrong. They flew. The wall receded behind them, a pale line. The sky opened. The land rolled out, then smoothed, then broke again in little ridges. Frozen streams gleamed like veins of silver. At first she saw nothing but trees and snow and the occasional shadow of some night hunting thing. Then Drogon's attention sharpened. His wings beat harder. A low growl vibrated up through her legs. "There," she murmured. Ahead, at the very edge of human sight, the forest thinned. The land dipped into a shallow, broad valley. The snow there lay different, more churned, more trampled. As they drew nearer, the shapes resolved. They were like ants at first, a dark line on the pale ground. Then like a column of marching men. Then, unmistakably, neither. They moved in a rough, shifting mass, a river of bodies, some shambling, some stumbling, some dragged by others. The column stretched from one side of the valley to the other, and beyond back into the trees, forward into more white. The line had no clear beginning or end. Simply was, there were thousands, whites, most of them. She could see the darker patches of wildling furs among the paler bodies of long-dead rangers. Here and there, something larger, giants, she realized with a sick lurch. Their shaggy forms moved with a jerky parody of their old gait, each step punching holes in the snow. And among them, scattered like the sparse spires of a dead forest, rode the others. They were fewer. Their pale horses left no prints. Their armor shone with a light that was not the moon's. Their eyes, she could feel their eyes even from this distance. Drogon felt them too. He snarled, a deep sound that made the air vibrate. Heat built in his chest, a familiar gathering. Fire wanted release. "No," Daenerys said, though every instinct screamed otherwise. "Not yet, not here. We cannot burn the sea with a single spark." She made him circle instead, wide and high. The army below did not stop. It did not look up, not in any way human forces would have. Only one of the others turned its head, its gaze tracing their path. Even from the dragon's back, Daenerys felt the brush of that attention like a cold fingernail down her spine. Ghost whined, a sound half fear, half fury, far below on the wall. Jon's hand gripped the parapet so tightly his knuckles ached. Through some thread neither of them fully understood, their perceptions brushed. For a heartbeat, Daenerys was both on the dragon and on the wall, seeing the same dark river from two angles. For a heartbeat, Jon felt the dragon's coil of power under his thighs, the itch of fire behind his teeth. Then it snapped back. Daenerys drew a breath that burned her lungs. "You see them?" She called back toward the wall, knowing the wind would carry her voice only partway, but trusting that some part of this would reach nonetheless. Jon did not answer aloud. He could not. He saw the scale of it. He saw the slow, relentless advance. He saw how utterly unprepared any human army was for such a thing. A dragon's fire could carve swaths through that mass. He had no doubt, but the mass would close again. Every man who fell not burned would rise on the other side. Behind him, Robb stood, cloak snapping, face pale in the starlight. Beside him, Melisandre's eyes were wide, the ruby at her throat blazing as if in answer to some unheard call. Catelyn clutched at the edge of the parapet, knuckles white. "Now you know," Jeor Mormont said roughly. "This is what comes." Daenerys turned Drogon back toward the wall. As they flew, the army of the dead marched on, unhurried. The living hurried instead.